Hey guys, welcome back to another stream. I'm still waiting for Laurenz to join, so I figured I would just hop on here and talk to you guys and entertain you guys until he comes on. But I did want to try to get started as soon as possible, so he'll be on shortly. But in the meantime, feel free to ask your questions, start getting them in so that I can take a look and try to start formulating them, and I can kind of start talking about any questions that you guys have by myself right now. So I see that we have a couple of people joining already. Thanks so much for tuning in. Sorry for being a couple of minutes late. Hey guys. Hey. Andrew asks, what do you think of the Bayern manager's chances? Oh, Laurenz has just joined, so I'm going to actually get him in now. Hello. I literally started. I was just saying hello to everybody when you joined in. How's it going?
I'm good. Other than the Twitter just mugged me off because I was literally sat here in this chair waiting for the last 10 minutes for this link, and Twitter just didn't update. And I was like, and then because I had your stream open and then I heard the intro music, I was like, what? and then you said, I'm just waiting for Laurenz. I'm like, but I haven't had a link yet. So I refreshed Twitter and only then it turned up. So do excuse my lateness. But yeah, I'm good. Looking forward to this. Love a bit of a Q&A usually.
Yeah, I figured it was a good time since we're kind of in between games. We're not used to having to wait so long for a Chelsea game, right? Like I feel it's like a week or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit strange. I mean, we obviously had it between the Fulham, Morecambe and Man City game, the other way around. But other than that, we haven't really had that other than international breaks, really. So it's a bit weird. At least it's only a Monday to Saturday rather than a Saturday to Saturday or whatever. But yeah, not long to go still to the next game, and I'm looking forward to it as usual.
I know. I feel like my whole schedule just revolves around Chelsea and when they're going to play. So I have a couple of questions set out that I put together from Twitter, from my own, and we do have a couple of questions in here. So I guess I'll just prioritize the questions that we have in the chat first, and then I'll go through filling in all of my questions as well. I'm super excited to have you on, so thanks so much for joining me.
You're very welcome. I'm excited.
So just as you were popping on, I was looking at this question from Andrew, and he says, what do you think of the Bayern manager of Chelsea's chances going far in the Champions League?
I think what he means is that the Bayern manager was asked. I didn't see the question itself, but I would presume he was probably asked about who do you think will do well, or maybe because Tuchel is now here, they maybe asked him about Chelsea, and he gave his thoughts that we have. He's a great manager, we have a great squad, and we can go far. That's basically what he said.
I'm so glad that you're here because I did not see that at all. So how are you feeling? I'll just kind of skip forward a little bit. How are you feeling about Chelsea in the Champions League? Because we are starting to get some momentum again, but I do feel like we're lacking that killer instinct that could be really make it or break it in the Champions League. And we play one of the most difficult teams I think that we could have possibly drawn. So how are you feeling about Chelsea's potential run in the Champions League?
It's difficult really because first of all, we need to beat this voodoo of not making it past the round of 16 since the 13-14 season. I mean, that's number one. And after that, anything can happen. Usually, I only say anything can happen once you make the semis. But realistically, once you already knock out Atletico Madrid, which, to get to the quarterfinals, we would have to do. One of PSG and Barcelona will be out. Of course, Barcelona are not quite the team they used to be, but still, there's always a threat when you play them and when they have Lionel Messi in their team. There's a chance Juventus might be going out. Obviously, they lost last night against Porto. So there is a chance. Of things going well, of us going a bit further. Am I going to sit here and say, I think we're going to win the Champions League? Absolutely not. But hey, if we can beat Atletico Madrid, and the recent run has made me a little bit more confident for that, at least, rather than having no confidence at all. So you never know. We'll see. But Atletico will be very tough. But if we do beat them, we can probably beat pretty much anyone, I would reckon.
You reckon? Yeah, they're having a really great run in La Liga. They're sitting first, and I think they actually have a couple of games in hand as well. But I saw a couple of games that they didn't have the best results recently, that they drew a game. or
They
they
drew
drew
last
like
night as well, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, I think they drew the last game, and so the results are kind of. I'm thinking like, oh, if they are drawing these games, perhaps we actually do have a chance at beating them. And speaking of the Champions League, I want to ask you. I think that it's been really an interesting week because we saw the likes of Mbappe and Haaland really like rise to the occasion, and they were just shining so brightly, and it was kind of like the torch had been passed, but symbolically with Juventus and Barcelona both losing. The Messi and Ronaldo is kind of like this new generation. So there are links of Holland to Chelsea. What do you think of those links? Do you know how like on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think that it's going to be? What do you think of Haaland as a player?
It's weird that the Haaland links, because Haaland is linked to pretty much every big club, isn't he? Realistically. Obviously, there's the Real Madrid links, which he was even asked about yesterday after the game. Of course, they played in Spain against Sevilla, right? So, the Spanish journalists, I'm sure, would ask about that link. It's a tough one because obviously currently Dortmund aren't having the best of seasons in the league. And if they don't make Champions League football, they will have to sell players. Even the BBC released an article on that they will have to sell their very biggest players because obviously of the global situation. They made a financial loss last year, which, for us, when you have an owner like Roman Abramovich, making a loss isn't that big a deal. That just means, okay, he put some more money in, right? But when you're a club that's run like a proper business, that you don't just have extra money flowing in whenever you need it almost, making a 33, I think, million pounds or euros loss in half a year is a big deal. So if they don't make Champions League football, that is a problem for them. And, even though Erling Haaland's release clause only activates in summer of 2022, that could make his price drop significantly. Although, in my opinion, that almost makes it less likely for us to sign him if they don't make Champions League football, because that puts Madrid and Barcelona really on the radar because they're struggling financially. Of course, it's a difficult situation. We don't really know, will the Spanish governments, release them of some sort of debt again and they can do whatever they want again, as has happened multiple times. Not sure whether it's necessarily the government, but, officials, right? But as long as that doesn't happen, and if Dortmund can ask whatever they want for him, and otherwise they'll just keep him, I think that puts us in the running, because realistically, if Chelsea want to sign someone, if Roman Abramovich wants to sign someone, he probably won't hesitate too much. Other than if they ask like 200 million, like anything under that, 150 million, I wouldn't be totally surprised if Abramovich is like, go on then. Like whether he will choose us over other teams, a different situation. But I wouldn't be totally surprised if Roman is like, might as well. If you ask me out of a 10 rating, how likely do I think it is? I would currently give it a 4, maybe a 5. So
it's not bad.
It's not bad, but I wouldn't sit here saying like I'm particularly confident that it will happen because I still think realistically, I just think that is more likely that he'll get a Real Madrid move or something. But then again, can Real Madrid afford him? And also Real Madrid probably want Mbappe more. But will Mbappe want to stay in Paris? Obviously, he's from Paris. People sometimes underestimate that. Mbappe will go here, Mbappe will go there. He is from Paris. That is a bit of it's different to when Neymar leaves or when Ibrahimovic leaves or when Cavani leaves. It's not quite the same thing when you're actually from there. Obviously, to a different scale of level. But it's like Reece James and Mason Mount leaving Chelsea. They're not just going to like go away. Like it will, if that does happen for them, it's a big deal. So it's a tricky one. Just because obviously we're talking about them, I want to bring up this stat because passing off the torch, I do agree with that is certainly happening. But I think people are slightly getting ahead of themselves how much they rate both of these guys. Because I saw a stat today, how many goals Mbappe and Haaland would have to score for the rest of their careers to even get to Ronaldo's levels. And Haaland is 20, I think Mbappe is like 22.
Yeah.
And Mbappe would have to score 48 goals every single season until he's 35 to reach the same number of goals that Ronaldo is on right now. And Messi's 30 or 40 goals behind, and he's obviously 2 years younger. Yeah. So like people need to understand how ridiculous these two are. Like we need to just accept, okay, we won't have another Messi and another Ronaldo probably for 100 years, if not never, right? They will just be the next greatest. We'll have to calm it down again and think, okay, 2 goals a week. 2 goals every 2 weeks is great. We can't expect hat tricks week in, week out, like we obviously, got from Messi and Ronaldo. But sorry, I went on a bit of a waffle there. But yeah, Haaland, we'll see. We'll see.
No, that's insane when you put it like that, because like you said, like I think we're just so spoiled by growing up with these two players in Messi and Ronaldo in their prime, and it's just like they're at such a they're like at probably the highest level that any player can ever reach in their career, and we're not going to see anything close to it. And these two players, I don't like throwing around the word generational, but I think if you can pick any two players in the world that could be generational, it would be Mbappe and Haaland right now. But just saying that, it's like, yeah, even with that level of talent, they still won't probably reach the number of goals that the likes of Messi and Ronaldo do, which is insane. I actually pulled up they're playing very similarly in their respective leagues. Holland has played 16, has 15 goals and 3 assists in the Bundesliga, and in the Champions League he played 5 and has 8 goals and 1 assist. And Mbappe has played 21 with 16 goals and 8 assists in the league, and in the Champions League 5 goals and 3 assists. So really similar players. Who would you prefer to have at Chelsea if you had to pick? If you said, oh, we're definitely getting one of them this summer, who are you going for?
That's a tough one. I just feel that Haaland is probably better suited to the Premier League and what we need. If you ask me who do I think is the better player and will be the better player, I would go for Mbappe. But as to what we need, I think Haaland suits that and fits that more.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's what I was leading towards as well. And I think that he's just such a, like, I don't know what like the right word is, like a goal threat. Like he's just so clinical in front of goal, and he's just a monster, that we're kind of lacking somebody right now who is like that clinical and is just going to like be that difference maker. And I think that he is a difference maker. And that kind of leads me to another comment that I just thought was funny. Loco Coco Pop says, do you trust Haaland's eyebrows? They're unsettling. Is it this why he scores so many goals? His defenders are just scared of him. And he's a big guy. He's a really big guy. And I do think that, like, if I were a defender, I would definitely be nervous to go up against him.
It's weird, isn't it? Because he's massive. But he's also like a baby face. I mean, I know he is only 20, but still, like there is 20-year-olds that look like they're 25. Then there's me and Haaland who look like 12. But Haaland, like, I don't know. It's a weird one. It's a weird one with Haaland. Like he looks like a bit of a weird guy. No offense at all. He looks a bit strange. But hey, I'd rather look like him and play football like him. So
The other day I got asked if I was 16 and I'm 26. So
but see, the older you get, the kind of more of a compliment that becomes. When you're 20, that pisses you off. When you get like 25, 26, you're like, oh, I was like
16 is a little young. I was like, that's not even legal like in Spain. But anyways, so we have another question. I'm just kind of going to be going through these questions kind of randomly. There's no order to this, you guys. We're just having a Q&A, no structure at all. So Jonathan asks, is the Jorginho Kovacic pivot the only nailed-on position since Tuchel's rotating everything else, strikers and keepers? What do you think?
It's a tough question. I would argue that while we stick to the same formation, the back three is pretty nailed on. Arguably more nailed on than the midfield too. Obviously, Thiago's injured right now, but he's back in training now. But once he's back playing, he takes Christensen's spot again. And Rudiger stays in there. He has played well since Tuchel's come in, so Rudiger stays in there. And Aspas as a right centre back, you're not going to find many better right centre backs, in my opinion. And the goalkeeper, that's a weird one. I still didn't really understand why Kepa played the last game. It obviously went well, and he had a good performance and everything. So in hindsight, brilliant. But I didn't understand the decision from the get-go. I don't understand, especially after. I was
going to ask you about that because I was feeling really unsettled when I saw him starting. I just thought that Mandy he's your number one. Why would you not start him?
Yeah, exactly. And especially then after the game, obviously when Tuchel gave the interview to Monday Night Football to Gary Neville and whoever asked the question, right? And he said, no, Mandy is our number one. He will play from now forward. So I'm even more confused. Like if he said, yes, there is a proper fight because he said, it's a clean slate for every single player. And, then it's fair enough to try out both goalkeepers and make your decision as the new manager. That's fair enough. I wouldn't have had an issue with that. He wants to see both, and so far both of them have been faultless. I guess Kepa made a mistake, but Tammy bailed them out of it in the cup, obviously against Barnsley. But so that I would have found fair enough. But to then after the game say, no, Mendy's the number one. I mean, well, why did Kepa play then? I don't really understand it. Obviously, there's been a lot of debate about, was this a board decision that he played and whatever else, and he needs to play. And I don't know. That's a tough one. Someone asked me that on my Insta DMs as well, something I should talk about at some point. Do you think it's Tuchel has control over the squad, or is the board that has control over the squad, or the team selection? It's a weird one. Obviously, the way we know Tuchel from his past, right, whether it's Dortmund or PSG, he doesn't seem like the guy that would let the board influence his team selection. But then at the same time, he's also said that, maybe he has to learn that there are certain fights he cannot win, so maybe he shouldn't take those fights. And maybe that's what he's doing right now. We will probably never, ever know, right? Unless Tuchel releases an autobiography after his career. Other than that, we'll probably never know. So it's a difficult one, but I think he just wanted to try them out, and he's just found the most PR media friendly answer. No, Mendy's my number one. And if he's going to play Kepa again, he's I just want to try something out. He just talk his way out of it, as managers usually do when they do controversial decisions.
I would be so nervous or start stammering. No, but it's an interesting point that you make, because a lot of people are saying, oh, we need to give Kepa confidence. He played well in the cup, blah, blah, blah. But my point against that was, well, you don't really just displace your starting goalkeeper like that, especially if you have a good cup game, especially for the goalkeeper, your goalkeeper is usually your number one, unless they're injured or having an absolute mare like we had seen last season, and they're costing you a lot of points. So I did understand the reason for misplacing him. And I guess if you were going to try to play him in some game, it might as well be Newcastle, where you're going to have the majority of the ball and that they're not going to take many shots, and maybe get his. I thought of it that it was more like getting his value up in case he were to leave in the summer, because they're definitely not recouping anywhere near 70 million. But if he plays, maybe you can justify a little bit more. And some other people said that it was just a Marina Pride thing, that she spent that. The board spent 70 million on this goalkeeper who's sitting on the bench. It doesn't look good from a PR perspective either. But it was an interesting one. I'm glad that he played well, but I don't see him being the starting goalkeeper going forward. But who knows? It could be completely open now. I really have no idea.
It's weird. I don't know, because obviously Tuchel did say Mendy needed the rest both physically and mentally. Not sure about the mental one. I don't know if he has a partner or if he lives alone in London. But just you're a goalkeeper. I mean, maybe he had a little injury. He can have a finger injury, an ankle injury, and he was all right, he could probably have played, but put him on the bench if it's necessary. And I actually wanted to touch on that, the True Blue question statement, even if you didn't put it up, because I want to make the comparison of the point that Ben Chilwell isn't playing. Ben Chilwell cost us 50 million as well. So, and as a left back, do you know what I mean? So why do people think the board are taking this high side or this dominant role in Kepa, but it's fine for Chilwell? Obviously, Kepa has been there for longer, and Kepa has been on the bench for much longer, and it's also, like you touched on earlier, less of a rotational position, the goalkeeper. But the fact that Alonso played Barnsley and Newcastle, I was personally surprised by it. I understand it on performance level, but on performance level, you can also make a case that Kepa probably deserved another goal. Not because Mendy was bad, but Kepa hasn't had a bad performance since Mendy's come in. Whenever he's played, Krasnodar or in the cup, he's not played bad in any of those games. Yeah. So I don't know. The Chilwell one is a weird one. We had times when Werner didn't play. We had Pulisic hasn't played. Another one that's 70 million. Why? You know what I mean? Obviously, there's maybe some other issues. He had the family issue going on, whatever that was. And obviously injury. Exactly. Or injury troubles. So maybe it's a little bit different. But I guess we shouldn't. I like to not read too much into things. We don't know. Maybe Mendy actually needed the rest. And that's the only reason Kepa played. Who knows?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And it's an interesting point you made about Toowell, because I just saw today that he's actually Chelsea's highest earner, I think. He's making like 180 to 190 a week. And I was super surprised to see that, because I was looking into the Alaba deal, and I remember our conversation how you said that he was going on a free, but it would be 400,000 a week. But if you take into account like not having to pay a transfer fee, then it effectively is about the same as a Ben Chilwell, more or less. And I couldn't believe how much he was making, and now he's just sitting on the bench. Do you think that there's a future for Ben Chilwell under Tuchel, given the formation that we've been playing recently?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I think long term, Chilwell will be our first choice, whether it's left back or left wing back. I think regardless, he will be the first choice. I've said this before. I'm not sure whether I've said it to you, but people need to consider the fact that Alonso has played 100+ games as a left wing back. Ben Chilwell has played about 3. Like, Ben Chilwell has come through at Leicester. They always play a back 4. So Chilwell has never played a left wing back role, right? So, you need to give him a little bit of time to adapt to that as well. And it's a similar situation when people ask me, shouldn't Reece James be playing right centre back? I'm like, I mean, I'm sure he can, but do that in cup games if you fancy it, really. But other than that, leave Aspas there, who we know is actually really good there. And don't just throw someone in there who is not used to their position. Even if you played it at a youth level, that's years ago now. Like, he obviously had the loan between, he had the fall of last season. I don't know when he last played a back 3 in the youth level, but it's more than 2 years ago as well. Like, anyways, right? So, I don't know. I don't buy it. And the Chilwell highest earner thing, I think that's a weird thing anyway, because I 100% remember that when N'Golo Kante signed his latest contract, he is said to be on £290,000, £295,000. So I don't know where this, but someone made a fair point.
I checked him at like 150 or something. I saw, because I remember seeing that as well, and I thought that he was the highest earner. And I checked multiple sites, and they have him at like 140, 150. And I don't know if I'm making this up. I think I read somewhere that he was like donating part of his salary, but this was like years ago.
That would count, though.
I could totally be making this up. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but he's not listed as the highest earner.
I can't remember who said this to me. It was on some stream I was on. I do a lot. I can't remember which one it was. But someone from America, I think, or someone that knows American sports quite well, said that in America it's actually a thing that people, when you sign, say, a 5-year contract, that your wages will get smaller as the contract goes on. So that you might be on like 290,000 for the first year, you go down to 250 or 220 in the second year, to 180 in the third year, and then 150 in the fourth year, something like that. I don't know if that exists in football. I have never heard of it before.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
But maybe it's a thing, right? Or it's just as simple as whenever that Kante contract was signed, the information was wrong and he wasn't making 290. But surely Kante, especially when he signed a new contract, would make a lot more sense to be earning that much money compared to Ben Chilwell.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised, because not even like Kai Havertz or Timo Werner are making that much. And I don't know. I do think that you're right that Ben Chilwell is going to be the starting left back going forward. But I think that right now we're just like been playing to try to like stop the gaps. Stop the goals from leaking and to start winning games. And with that, you're playing a back 3, so you're playing a little bit more defensively. You have this extra center back on there, and like you said, Marcos Alonso has so much more. But what's the word? I can't think. I'm so tired. Experience at that left wing back role. James says, I'm American and that happens, but that's for really old players. About your comments about the not amortization of it, but it just going down. So all right, sorry. I'm just going to go into some questions that I have that I got from Twitter. So speaking about that back 5, so to speak, Dan asked, do you think Azpilicueta would have this type of revival when Tuchel came in? And what have you thought about him so far under his reign? And I really like this question because I love Azpilicueta. Like you guys know, he's one of my absolute favorite players. And a lot of people were saying that he was done, that his time was up. We can tell that he is not the fastest player ever, but he's still really strong. So did you expect Azpilicueta to be one of the starters under Tuchel? And what do you think of his performances so far?
Well, if someone told me that we're going to play a back three, I would have said, yes, Aspas is a starter. I didn't necessarily expect us to play a back three when Tuchel took over. So that's why I wouldn't have said that. But like, if you're telling me Aspas plays as a right centre back in a back three, I would always back him to actually play really well to this day. Obviously, like you said, he's not the fastest anymore, but that's where it's better to be a right centre back than a right back because you don't need to bomb up the pitch and back as much. And even then, he still gets involved. Obviously, got that goal against Burnley and even had a decent enough opportunity for a cross, not a goal, in a similar situation with Callum cutting inside and Aspas making a run from deep against Newcastle now on the weekend as well. Or Monday, rather. So, not surprised me in the sense that once I knew he played right centre-back that he would do well, and I fully agree. He's been absolutely brilliant. But surprised in the sense that I didn't expect us to play a back 3/back 5 for as long as we have in particular.
Yeah, me too. When I saw the first game, I remember being so shocked. I like Callum Hudson-Odoi right wing back, and I was playing a back three, and I thought like, oh, surely it's just going to be a game or two to steady the ship. But now we're really just playing that. And I have a feeling that we might play this throughout the rest of the season, and then he'll take the preseason to kind of like reanalyze everything and look at where we can improve and like what formations we could potentially play. Because another point in the system is that there's certain players that really don't fit in because you have the extra center back on the pitch, like Hakims or a Kai Havertz, even a Christian Pulisic. They're finding it. I know that some of them are coming back from injury, but they're really finding it difficult to get into the team. Do you think that we're going to be able to find a way to incorporate all of these players into the same starting 11?
Well, that is a tough one. I think one of them will probably have to miss out. Realistically, but then at the same time, that just means you have a good squad because we have a fair few injury-prone players, and having a lot of players in that position just means you will always have one or two of them starting, which is only a good thing, right? Because yes, we're sitting here saying now, but where's Ziyech and why is Pulisic not playing? Yeah, but if you remember back to October times when Pulisic was injured, Ziyech was injured, and then we're like, we only have Hudson-Odoi as the only actual winger in our team, and then we played Werner on the left wing under Frank as a proper left wing, and that didn't work. We were all crying out for more wingers. And now we're saying, well, can they all play? Well, no, they can't all play, but people will be tired, people will be suspended, people will be injured. Mind you, Ziyech will every now and again go to an African Cup, so, that is usually in January. So, he will be out for like 6 to 8 weeks, whatever, depending on how far they go and whatever else. So you can't play all of them, no. But that isn't necessarily the worst thing. In terms of the back five, I personally think we would have changed to a back four already had Thiago Silva not gotten injured, but he doesn't trust the centre-backs to do a back four without him. And I also think once, obviously, hopefully not, right? But once we are out of Europe, we will have less midweek games and possibly out of the FA Cup, hopefully, obviously, again, no, but in theory, once we have less midweek games, I think that's when we'll see more tactical changes because we play every 3 days now. And even now, yes, we had a week off, but he gave them 2 days off. So they only returned back to training today. So it's only 2 days preparation for the game anyway. So I think that's part of the reason. I think we will probably see we saw it in the second half against Barnsley already, right?
That's
so I do think we will see it in some games, especially the longer the season goes on. But I do still have a bit of a feeling that with Thiago, we might have done it already. Against Newcastle, for example, not necessarily to say, okay, this is what we're going to do full stop now, but in terms of give it another game to trial things. Because Tuchel tried that and he said, okay, this works. So why don't I stick with that? And it's also a case, and I said this yesterday 2 days ago to Lewis, in the sense of people are too fixated on formations because off the ball, we don't actually play a 3 or a 5. We play a 4. Off the ball, we're in a 4-4-2 shape more often than not because Hudson-Odoi is kind of just a right mid while Werner is usually the left mid and Alonso drops in as a left back. So it's kind of a 4-4-2 off the ball. Obviously, it shifts around sometimes. But even then, even when we played 4-3-3s, the winger was still meant to track back and you could almost call it like a 5 or a back 6, whatever. Just when it's a back 4 already, you don't call it a 5 or a 6, right? But that's just kind of wrong because the wingers, if they help out defensively, that's kind of like playing as a wing back in that moment, right? So that's kind of the same thing that Hudson-Odoi has done when he's played in that position. Just when Reece James plays right wing back, that's when it's more of a 5. But even then, in defensive shape, it's more of a 4-4-2 actually rather than anything else. And going forward, it's a 3-2-5. So I don't know. There's 3 centre-backs are certainly a thing, but we do know that Aspie obviously is also right back. So it's a very easy transition to make, and it's part of the reason why Aspie under Conte and now plays the right centre-back role to make that transition a lot more smooth.
Yeah, and we also see that Azpilicueta isn't afraid to go forward, and that he does have like very good vision to make those runs and get into good positions. And I really like that about him, that he's still doing that. And like that goal that he scored, I don't remember who it was against. You probably remember better than me.
That's the Burnley first goal against Burnley.
Burnley. I literally, like, after the game, I would completely forget. I will never remember when goals were scored. But he made a good point. He says we play 3 at the back to add more height and physicality into the team, since we don't have a natural DM. And that could definitely be a reason. Perhaps in the summer transfer window, we will get a DM. Who knows? But like you said, I don't want to get too fixated on the formation. So
I just want to say something on that, though, because if you think about it, it doesn't actually change our height and physicality, because our right centre-back is Aspie. If our right centre-back was, say, Zuma, then that statement would be correct. But because it's Aspie, it's kind of like just having the right back there anyway. And like Aspie isn't more physical than, say, Reece James. Arguably, he's actually less physical. I'm not sure in height. I think they're very similar.
Azpilicueta is better defensively than Reece James.
Yeah, but not in terms of physicality or height.
Yeah.
That's just in comment in response to that comment. I don't think it changes much, but the shape makes a difference in comfort for Kovacic and Jorginho. That's where I think the biggest difference comes from.
Also, with the 3, you also have Alonso, who's like a lot taller than Toowell, so to speak, as well, and he's a threat in the air with defending set pieces as well. But I don't rely on him all that much, to be completely honest with you. So I want to ask you about a couple of specific players. Hakim Ziyech is one that we've seen that is out of the game, really. And I think that the Southampton game could be a good game, because we know that we play Southampton on Saturday. I feel like it's Friday today, so I was going to say tomorrow, and that's not right. It's not Friday. It's Thursday. So we play Southampton on Saturday and Atletico Madrid away on Tuesday. So I do think we're going to see a lot of rotation in this team. So do you think that it's an opportunity for Hakim Ziyech to start? And also, I just want to add, I saw this really interesting stat that said he had been struggling so much, but we have to remember he's only played the equivalent of 14 full games of football in 11 months, because the Dutch league ended so early, and then he didn't have a proper preseason with the team. The team was still playing, and he was kind of just there. Then he got injured. Then he got injured again. So it really hasn't been an easy start to his Chelsea life. But do you think that we're going to start seeing him incorporated more, and perhaps the Southampton game could be a good opportunity to do it?
First of all, the stat, that I was almost going to bring it up as well. A very interesting article by The Athletic, the whole thing. And, a lot of people seem to forget and underestimate that he didn't play a single game of competitive football between March 7th and when he came back from his knee injury for us. And that would have been late October, early November when he came back. So, people need to remember that. Of course, that is a while back now already, and he had 3, 4, 5 really good performances or whatever it was in that period, and then picked up obviously a small injury again, the hamstring one, and ever since then he struggled. So I think it's an excuse to some extent. I think it's also a situation where, 14 games. Well, how many has Christensen played until Tuchel came in? He probably has played less than 14 games. And we're not he's doing all right. So the amount of games thing, I'm not sure I give him as that much of an excuse, but in terms of adapting to the league, that's why I think it's a big deal.
Sorry to interrupt you. I think it's a little bit easier to be a defender and just slotting in, because you don't have to do that much running. And I don't know, I think that it's a lot harder to have match fitness probably as a midfielder or an attacker than it is to have as a defender.
That's true.
And Ziyech was coming back from injury as well. I don't think that Christensen was injured, and into a new league, like Christensen had already been playing in the league. He knows what to expect, and Ziyech just he's not a physical player at all. And I saw some crazy stat that he lost possession 29 times or something like that against Barnsley. It was just ridiculous. So he needs to learn how to hold on to the ball. I don't know. I understand what you're saying, but I do think as an attacker, maybe it's a little bit more difficult difficult to come back into this side. But do you think that he starts versus Southampton, given that we're probably going to rest a lot of players for the Atletico game?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Obviously, because we had the week off now and they had 2 days rest. So you could argue it's probably just about fine to play most of the players twice. I think there will be a little bit of rotation. But I just also hope that it's not too much, because as much as the Atletico game is big and important, we better not rotate too much and then drop points against Southampton. Like, we absolutely cannot afford to do that. And I think Tuchel will be slightly very wary of that too. Hence why there might not be that much rotation. And Insane Thoughts just put it in the chat, it depends on whether Kai Havertz is fit to play or not. I doubt it. I think he'll be on the bench and maybe start against Atletico.
You think he's going to start against Atletico after not playing for so long?
It's a good player, you know. Tuchel played him against Wolves and whatever else. I don't know. I'm just saying he might do. I just think in terms of fitness, he will be probably fit to play against Atletico. So then it's up to Tuchel to decide. And for Southampton, it might be a case of he's probably not ready to play more than 30 minutes, an hour max, probably. So we'll see. It's a tough one. It's a very difficult one. I think Hudson-Odoi will stay at right wing back.
Okay.
I think Pulisic will start.
I hope so. He needs to score. He needs to.
Yeah, no, he does. It's a tough one. I think that, it's probably between, does James start at right wing back and Hudson-Odoi at right wing, whatever, or does Hudson-Odoi remain at right wing back and Ziyech plays in that role? Because but then again, Mount was completely left out of the Barnsley game, so he probably won't need a rest. It's a tough one. I don't know. Actually, if you ask me like that, I don't think he will start against Southampton personally.
There's so many possibilities. I'm thinking Mount surely has to play against Atletico, so maybe he's rested against Southampton, but maybe he doesn't need the rest. Maybe he can just be ready for both of them. And there's just a lot to take into consideration.
Honestly,
Yeah, I think given the performance against Barnsley, it wasn't convincing enough to merit a start. But then I think you do have to take into consideration a bit of rotation. But like you said, all of our opponents are they have been dropping points last weekend. Perhaps that will continue into this weekend as well. And Chelsea finally back in that 4th spot and need to try to hold on to it and maintain it. So who knows? Honestly, I am glad that I'm not the one picking out making that decision at all, because it must be a headache. I saw a question here that I wanted to ask you. It says, who do you think is a star player in this current Chelsea team? I feel it's interesting because right now I don't feel we necessarily have a game changer like an Eden Hazard who you just bring on and okay, he's probably going to get some sort of goal contribution or instantly turn the game on its head. And I don't think that we necessarily have that at Chelsea. Or for me, the star player would probably be Thiago Silva, because I just think that we look so much more short when he's in the defense, and that he puts in a shift week in, week out. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. He does not look his age at all. He's just playing so incredibly well and makes everybody around him better. Yeah, I wish that I would look that good at 36. That's insane. But do you agree, or do you have another player who you think is a good shout for this?
It's a difficult question, because in terms of star player, there's very few teams in the world that have that one standout star player. Obviously, we were one of them under Hazard, or with Hazard. There is Barcelona, there's Juventus. But other than that, there is many. Usually teams don't just have one. And unless they're as good as Messi and Ronaldo and maybe Hazard at Chelsea, it's probably not a good thing anyway, if that makes sense. Because, PSG have Neymar and Mbappe. They have Icardi who gets them goals. They have obviously Di Maria when he's fit. Dortmund have, alongside Haaland, they have someone like Sancho. Bayern Munich, yes, they have Lewandowski, but Lewandowski isn't just by himself. They have Müller, they have Sane, they have Gnabry, they have Coman, they have Goretzka, they have Kimmich. They have so many incredible players. Alphonso Davies, obviously, David Alaba. Neuer in goal, right? It's the captain. So I don't think we have such a thing, but I don't think that's a bad thing. But probably closest to it is Thiago Silva. But does anyone consider defenders, centre-backs as the star player? I don't know. So if you're going to talk about offensive players...
Look at Liverpool without Van Dijk, really.
True, but it's also... Salah has still scored, 25 goals this season? So they still have the star player. It's just the rest of the team don't work.
I tell you, I've been very disappointed with Mohamed Salah because he had blinked in far too many game weeks and like totally screwed my FPL team. He's still in there. I haven't gotten rid of him yet, more so because I just feel like he's going to start scoring as soon as I transfer him out. But that's really painful. Anybody else who plays FPL, maybe you can feel my pain. Do you play FPL, Laurenz?
I used to, but I'm really bad with keeping up with it, so I just gave up. As in, I used to back in the day, and now I just know myself, so I don't even start. Because either I forget or I get really triggered at some players not playing, so it just pisses me off. So I'm like, nah, I'll leave that. Although it is good, like it's basically like free betting because it gets you invested in games that you actually don't care about, which usually only betting does, and then FPL does it. So it's good. But yeah, like I haven't done it the past 2 seasons, and before that.
Week on my not a week, like an hour or 2 hours on my transfers this week, and I just know that it's going to completely backfire. I have 3 Leeds players, which normally I wouldn't do, but they have a double game week, so I'm like hoping that they'll have a good game.
I hope you didn't pick any Leeds defenders because clean sheets is not it for Leeds.
No, I picked Dallas, but he has like pretty high points. So I was like, I don't know. They're playing Wolves and Southampton, so I feel like it could go either way. But I don't know. I'm kind of nervous about it. I overthink it's so much. Fahim goes, you should never add Man City players. I have 3 Man City players as well. I'm really like loaded up too much. And I don't know if Gundogan's going to be safe, but I didn't want to transfer him because I thought it could be another Harry Kane situation where I transferred him out and then he was fine like the next week. And that was terrible. But back to the stream, I could talk about FPL in its own stream, honestly, let's be real. So I think that this is a good place to wrap up. We got a question from Jam. And he says, predict these: the Premier League top scorer, Chelsea top scorer, the Premier League top assister, the Chelsea top assister, and then I added on the Premier League top 4. And just to give you guys kind of like where's at, let's start with the Premier League top scorer. Currently, Salah has 17, Bruno has 14, and then Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Kane, and Son are all tied at 13. So who do you think is going to be the top scorer in the Premier League this season? At
this point, I would be surprised if it's not Salah, but I could also see it be Bruno and score another 15 penalties probably. Or if Gundogan doesn't stay out injured for too long, he might, because the amount of goals that guy scored is the most ridiculous thing I've ever had in my life. But, probably Salah. Realistically, it's probably going to be Salah. Like in terms of if I had to put money on it, you'd have to say Salah. I mean, he's 3 ahead, and 3 is not that little.
Yeah, but he hasn't. Like Liverpool haven't been playing that well. Like they've been losing a lot of games, and he hasn't. He's just started scoring again, but he went like 6 weeks without scoring, something like that. So I would probably also say Salah just based off of the past. And I do think that Liverpool are going to get out of their funk. Don't really know what's going on with them, why they're playing like so badly and losing so many games. It could be like a motivation thing too, that you've already won the league, you've already won the Champions League. What else is there left to win? I don't know. But it's definitely a weird situation. So now looking at Chelsea top scorer, this one is
talking in the league or all competitions for us?
League.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just keep it. Otherwise, it can get like too complicated with FA Cup and who's playing or whatever. So in the league, Chelsea's top scorer very close. Tammy has 6, and Jorginho. Tammy has 6, and Jorginho. I wrote Tammy twice, but I think Tammy has 6, and Jorginho and Werner have 5.
Yeah, and Giroud has 4. Zuma has 4. Is it
Zuma has 4.
Yeah, currently I would probably say Werner, probably, but then I have to see him at least score another goal soon, because he might go another 100 days without a goal, and then he definitely won't be. Like, do you know what I mean? So it might be Tammy as well. It might be Jorginho if we get a few more penalties. Who knows? That'd be quite fun.
He could have had 8, but he missed it. He could have been the top goal scorer for Chelsea.
Were they all in the league as well?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I think I can remember at least 2. I think that were of the 3 that were in the league.
Yeah,
They were in the league, all of them.
I think they might have been on in the league. Yeah, no, I would probably, if I had to go for someone, I'd probably say Werner, because Tammy's injured now. We'll find out tomorrow in Tuchel's press conference if it's anything serious or not. Obviously, if that keeps him out for a few weeks, that puts him at lesser likelihood, I guess. But also with the fact that Tuchel has been liking playing Werner as a kind of a left forward or as a second striker, one of Tammy and Giroud will more often than not play, unless now that Kai is back, he will use Kai in that role, which I would personally be a fan of. But we'll see whether Tuchel does it. So I'll say Werner, but I just hope it's a few more than 8. Do you know what I mean?
I hope so too, and I really hope that this goal kind of like eased his mind so that he doesn't have to worry anymore. He's like, okay, I've got my goal, that's it, and now he can build off of that and gain some momentum, because he did look like he was getting into good goal scoring opportunities, but just when you're lacking that confidence, he just wasn't it wasn't coming off the final end product. And I think that we will see that, but it's just a matter of time. I don't think it's going to change overnight, but hopefully we start seeing Timo Werner score more goals. Maybe I will have a Chelsea player in my FPL for once. I took them all out after 3 weeks.
You could put Mandy back in, I reckon.
I would be nervous. I have Martinez in there, and
or Alonso. Alonso plays a lot of games, gets a lot of points for goals.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the Pep roulette, you just don't know who's going to score.
Yeah.
Or you don't know who's going to even start. So I really want to get Pulisic in there, honestly, but he's just not starting and he's not scoring, so it doesn't make any sense. But breaks my heart. So moving along, for Premier League top assister, currently Kane has 11 and Kevin De Bruyne and Grealish both have 10. This is an interesting one. Who do you think will come out on top?
That is a very interesting one. Bruno has 9 as well, so not far off. After that, it's a while off. With the current form, but then City don't. City do score. I will say De Bruyne. I will say De Bruyne just because I do think Spurs will keep dropping off. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they will keep dropping off, meaning Kane will, naturally get less assists. Could be Bruno as well. But I'm a back De Bruyne just because I think he's the best player in the league, and City are going to win the league, so they're probably going to get plenty of goals and he'll get plenty of assists.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. If he can stay fit, I do think that De Bruyne will get it. James asks, is Harry Kane a lock for player of the season? Because he does. I have his goals here. He has 13 goals and 11 assists already in the league this season, which is just insane.
I mean, there is how many games there left to play? 14, 15? There's a lot of games left to play. We're only just over halfway. So a lot could change. I would make the case a player, no matter how many goals and assists he gets, a player, especially if he's the captain, that plays in a team that doesn't even make top 4, and I don't think Spurs will, can't be anywhere near player of the year, personally. My current shout, would be Gundogan, but again, 13, 14, 15 games left, so who knows? But I actually think Gundogan is probably there, because I think this is a ludicrous situation anyway. Unless the second team is really close to first, someone that wins the league has to be player of the year. In my opinion, it's a weird concept that someone that doesn't win the league is player of the year. That's a bit weird. Kane makes a case. Bruno Fernandes, to some extent, makes a case, although he has dropped off a little bit since the turn of the year as well. He just had a great 2020. No one else did, but he did. But we'll see. I reckon Gundogan, but I also like Gundogan. I always have, so who knows?
That's a good shot as well. I keep bringing it back to FPL, but he saved my FPL last week. I captained him. I should have triple captain, man. Anyways, who do you think the Chelsea top assister is going to be? It's really close as well. Timo at 5, Chilwell at 4, Mount at 3. I thought it would be Ziyech at the start of the season, but evidently not.
Evidently not. I mean, Ziyech is probably on 2, isn't he? So even if you go further back, it's probably not far, so not exactly impossible for anyone to catch up on. So
it's a hard one. It really could be anybody.
And it's weird with how much I've criticized Timo this season. I wouldn't be opposed to saying Timo again. And this is, by the way, counting assists or not counting winning penalties as an assist, because he would have assisted 3 of his own goals, which would have been a bit weird. But Ziyech is actually on 3 as well with Mount, so he's only 2 off. So it could still be Ziyech. You never know. I don't know. Unless Zuma starts playing again and then Mount gets corner assists again. Austria FC, big up, come on. Unless Zuma starts playing again and then Mount gets a fair few corner assists again, I don't think it will be Mason. Not to any criticism of him, but he's just not the open play assist kind of guy at the moment. So I will reckon Timo, but again, we'll see. I will say Timo.
I know it really depends, but I think like the other thing is like Chilwell's up there. He's not really playing right now, so I wouldn't really bank on him. And like you said, Zuma was getting the goals for those Mount corners that he was taking, so Mount would get the assist on those. But now Zuma isn't playing, and we kind of look a little bit. Let
me just make one like outsider shot here. Hudson-Odoi is on 2. That puts him just 5 off top. And with how Hudson-Odoi is playing, if someone just starts getting on the end of his crosses, he could, in 2 games, be top of the list. So my outside contender is Callum Hudson-Odoi.
That's a good shout. I really like that. And thoughts on who's going to finish in the top 4? It's a really weird league this season. Liverpool are currently sitting in 6th. Who do you think is going to be at the top 4 at the end of the season?
Do I have to give an order?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Man City will win the league.
Yes.
Man United will finish 2nd. Will finish 3rd, and Liverpool will finish 4th.
Interesting. So you think Leicester are going to trickle off again this season like they had last?
Yes, because part of that being James Justin's injury. I think that will play a bit of a fairly big role for them. Long term, obviously, they played Danilo Pereira at left back in the last game out against Liverpool when they beat them. Was that their last game even? Oh, yeah, it was. So if that's a situation that he can do, he's a very good player. If he's comfortable playing on the other side, they're fine. But in terms of the final third, I don't know. I mean, Vardy obviously scored again against Liverpool, missed another one that he really should have scored. Other than that, I don't think he scored for like 8 games or something. So I'll see. Because Leicester just bottled it last year. So that's why I feel like they might bottle it again this year. That's the only reason. And why I think United will finish ahead of us in Liverpool is because United are in Europa League and can rotate in the week for the weekend. Simple reason for that. Obviously, once they get to the quarterfinal, semi-final stage, they won't be able to do that as much anymore either. But until then, they might have a bit of a cushion. And how far are we behind them? 4 points, 6 points, one of that. So
I think it might be just 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I mean, I might change my opinion on that if we beat them. Obviously, we'll play them soon. If we beat them, I might say we'll finish 2nd. But I don't want to get too ahead of myself with our current good form because we had good form already this season, and we know how that ended. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself and say, we're just going to win every game now and we're going to finish 2nd, 3 points off Man City. Be great, but I don't see it. So obviously, if we lose to Atletico Madrid, right, and I'm going to be positive and say not going to say that. If we lose to Atletico Madrid, I think there's a good chance we finish 2nd because then we are out of Europe. Because Atletico will go through, Liverpool will go through. Leicester are not in Europe, are they?
No,
are they not in the Europa League anymore? Surely.
In Champions League, definitely not.
No, they're not in the Champions League. But are they not playing today then, Leicester? They must do. Oh, they are currently playing Slavia Prague. So even for Leicester, I mean, they don't have the biggest squad in the world. So for them, even Europa League has a bit of an impact. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick to that. But maybe if we beat Man United, I'll change my mind to Ricardo Pereira. Yes, sorry for him, not Danilo Pereira. Who's Danilo Pereira? He's a dude as well. Oh, he's the CDM for PSG. My bad. Too many Pereiras in the world of football. Hey, can't fault me. Can't fault me. Yeah, Ricardo Pereira. My bad.
Chris, we're 4 points behind United with a game in hand. I didn't realize we had a game.
I don't think we have a game in hand. I don't think that's true. Let me check, but I'm pretty sure that's not true.
Yeah, look it up. Fact check that. I don't think we did.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
So no game in hand.
No. Actually, now that Man City obviously had their game last night against Everton, which was from match day 15, we're actually all level on games from 1st to 6th. Just Everton have 1 in hand over all of us. Villa have 2 in hand over all of us, and Spurs have 1 in hand over all of us. So the top 6 are now all level on games, actually.
Very good. Well, guys, I think I'm going to end it here. Laurenz, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure having you on. Let the people know where they can find you on social.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this. I love a good Q&A. So first of all, subscribe to Ellie if you haven't already. And if you fancy subscribing to me, do so. My channel name is literally just my name as it says it here, right? Laurenz Vescoli. You might struggle to spell it, just copy it. Maybe Ellie will have the link in the description. So just subscribe there. That'd be sick. And on Twitter and Instagram, it's at Laus1507. That's more straightforward than typing it in. So if you fancy following me there, do so. And yeah, again, thank you for having me. Have a good evening. And yeah, up the Chelsea really, because tomorrow press conference, Saturday game, early kickoff. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I have to. Thank you for reminding me. I have to put your info in the description. I will do that right after the stream, you guys, so you'll be able to just find where you'll be able to click where to find him. And if you like this video, please drop it a like. It helps me a lot. Subscribe to my channel. That also helps me. Please, please, please. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I have a couple more streams coming up. Tomorrow, I should have Eunice and Maud on, which will be really cool. And we have the Southampton game as well. So lots of fun streams coming up. And thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm out.